When did you decide you were going to become a professional musician? And just give us a little bit of the background of the ambience of when that happened.
Okay. I started playing when I was 10 against my will. My mother forced me to take lessons. And then, 1 year later, after I'd been playing the guitar for a year, the Beatles were on Ed Sullivan. And for the next 6 months, I was the cool kid. And that lasted all of 6 months.
You're covering your mic.
Banging the mic, too. And anyhow, so, but I didn't even like playing the guitar at first. And then all of a sudden, I discovered that you could play more than one note at a time. I didn't even know that at first. I looked in a book and I saw one of those little chord box diagrams for the E major chord, and I said, how are you supposed to do that? Oh man, listen to that. Not quite the sound I'm looking for. We got to lose that plug in. So I was about 12 or 13 when I decided to try and make a living at it. And then after playing in nightclubs after nightclubs after nightclubs, playing in cover bands, I started reading the backs of album covers, like Steely Dan album covers and albums from LA, and noticing credits for people that weren't the artist playing on the records, and you start seeing certain names over and over again. And I go, man, that looks like a good way to make a living, just be in the recording studio all day and play on these great records that I was hearing. See names like Larry Carlton and on Joni Mitchell records. And so that's what I tried to do, and it was not an easy jump from one job to the other. I had to spend a couple of years working for nothing, playing on people's demos for nothing. And eventually, I met a guy named Kashif, who unfortunately passed away last year, who came from a band in Brooklyn called the BT Express. And he made the leap. He was a producer, keyboard player, songwriter, singer, and he started producing people, and all of a sudden he was given the job of producing a record for a woman named Evelyn Champagne King, who had already had a hit a couple of years before that. And he had been using me on his demos. And he also used me, which he did not have to do when he made this record, when he made the move up to making an actual record for a record label. He didn't have to do that, and I'm eternally grateful to him that he did. And that got me started, because that very first record that I played on, that he produced, went to #1. And the next thing I knew, because my name was listed in the credits, I was getting all these calls for Luther Vandross, and I became kind of stereotyped as an R&B player for several years, because of the first couple of records I played on were R&B records. So there's that.
Yeah, I just want to pick up on that. I think that most people who succeed in the music business in this city have one prime mover, and I have that person who gave me my first shot. Still work for him. Last job I did it for free because he's my guy, and hopefully he'll sell the thing and pay me at some point or other. But that person may be sitting right next to you in class. So just keep that in mind. Let's see. So Ira's been with us for 20 years. I just have to tell you, he'll be embarrassed by this, but yesterday we were in the recording studio, and we'd finished a track that I'd written, and our producer had a mandolin, and Ira didn't have a mandolin that was left-handed with him.
Oh yeah, I play left-handed.
Ira, as you can notice, is a left-handed guitar player, right? It's kind of weird looking, right? And
not to me.
So I gave the right-handed mandolin to Ira, and I said, well, go see what you can do. And he killed it. Just killed it. Upside down. I don't know. That's a kind of a skill that I can't even fathom. But anyway, that's a little aside. So here's what we're doing today. Ira has his acoustic guitar, his left-handed acoustic guitar, his left-handed mandolin, and his left-handed electric. And we're going to take a track that was recorded in this studio by my band, the Bacon Brothers. And this is a song that my brother wrote And just to give you a little background on how he wrote it, in my family, I've got 4 sisters and 1 brother. And at Christmas, we have a tradition where you don't go out and buy someone a sweater. You make something for them. You write something for them. You sing something. You give them a photograph. You whatever. That's kind of the way we are. So my brother last Christmas, or maybe the Christmas before, had my sister that's just older than I am. And my parents generally were away most of the summer traveling. My father was a city planner and would travel the world and look at different cities. So most of the time, my parents weren't around in the summers. And my sister, who's just older than me, was in charge of little Kevin. And she drove him in the car. She drove him in the boat. She was responsible for him. So his gift to her was this song called Driver, which talked about how she took care of him and kept him safe. She was 16 years old. So that's
Wow.
what the song is about. And I heard the song, and this was never supposed to go anywhere, just a Christmas gift. And I said, man, that is a great song. That's going to become a Bacon Brothers song. And it did. And the other thing I want to say is, in terms of songwriting, is Kevin came to me. He said, I'm looking for an instrumental kind of bridge. Do you have any ideas? I said, Johnny Nash. I can see clearly now. The greatest instrumental, weird, strange chords. And he listened to that, and he was inspired by that, and that's why the bridge is the way it is. So, Steve, could you take it upon yourself to show what you're going to be doing and give us a little idea what's going on?
So we had the whole band in a room, which was kind of cool, and the only real thing that the microphones were on were the drums at the time. Everything else was either being piped out of the room into other rooms around the facility, or intended to be overdubbed afterwards. From the original recording, we have the drums, we have the bass, and then we sort of sculpted the track afterwards with overdubs. The keyboard player recorded the organ at home. He's got this beautiful B3 that I don't even know if it would be able to have made the trip here. Probably.
No, they weigh 400 pounds.
Yeah.
B3 is an antique Hammond organ.
Yeah, with a Leslie speaker that's the size of a refrigerator.
With a Leslie speaker, which is a spinning speaker that give it.
Which also weighs a couple hundred.
Yeah, they're very, very, very heavy. And we did vocals, a little bit of some vocals here. We did some vocals in other places, and Ira sent us his guitar parts from home. Although I'm not sure if the electric guitar parts that we ended up using were recorded here or you.
Because I did do them here as well. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure which one actually ended up being used, but we had, one of the beauties of being able to record in this manner is that you can do stuff ad nauseum wherever you are, and because it's all to a grid, everything comes in. So someone could record something at one studio and it can come into here, and everything sort of fits. So that's what we did, and then I mixed the song at my studio on Long Island.
How many of you have done some recording? And on what platform?
I worked actually I started as an intern in the studio, and I worked my way up to engineer.
Uh-huh.
So I'm more on the engineering side of
Okay.
the recording, though.
And
Mostly
what-
just vocals, though.
And what platform were you using? Pro Tools or
Pro Tools. I used a little bit. I use more Logic now.
more Logic?
Yeah, but
okay.
mostly Pro Tools. I'm Pro Tools certified.
Okay, cool. Anybody else?
You're Pro Tools certified?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic.
You want a job here?
I might need a little, start from the bottom if I have to. But yeah.
You had your hand.
Just pass the mic over to him.
What have you been recording on?
On Pro Tools and Logic, mostly Logic,
Mhm.
and also
And in what capacity? A musician or
musician and engineer. I have a home studio, so I do
Okay.
all my recordings.
what's
for
your instrument?
piano?
Piano.
Pianist,
Okay.
Yeah.
And I have to add, I'm just speaking to Mike. Tony is an amazing composer and is one of my film scoring students.
Excellent.
And is very talented, really talented composer, and also did a great performance at the Jazz Fest, which we recently completed. And very impressive musicians you play with, and it's great to have you in my class. I love it.
So I work on Pro Tools at home. I just haven't learned DP or Logic yet. I hear Logic's kind of crazy to learn, but maybe that's why I haven't learned it. But I'm a little scared of it. Anyhow, I'm comfortable in Pro Tools. And once you have a sound file, it'll play on pretty much any platform. So you don't really need to learn all the others, right? I just send it to you and you put it in DP and it plays.
Yeah, I imagine this was probably done on at least 2, if not 3 platforms. Throughout all you guys. I mean, you use Pro Tools. Michael and I use DP. We recorded it in Pro Tools here. I'm not sure what Paul is using or
Paul and Frank use Pro Tools.
Probably
Yeah.
Joe as well.
I don't know if Joe uses. Well, he uses. I think he uses a few of them. Anyhow.
So yeah, so this
Anyhow.
was done on multiple platforms, and it was easily able to kind of go in and all speak the same language.
Okay, let's hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to play this song, and we took all the guitars that were done by Michael and Kevin and myself off of it, and we'll start building it up from the ground up again. I'll play a bunch of stuff. First thing is, when you walk into a recording session, or if somebody sends you something, or you have to plan something, you have to know what you're listening to, and it's okay to. I'm okay, thanks. It's okay to listen to something 1,000 times to get the chords and the form of the song, but if you're actually being hired to record guitar, for example, you can't do that. You've got to, and if they don't have music for you to look at, you got to hurry up and put something together. So what I'm going to do is, I have a little unfair disadvantage because I know the song.
1,000 times to play there.
But this is what I would do in this situation. I'd say, okay, what's the name of the song? The name of the song is Driver. I scribble out for myself a lead sheet, what's called a lead sheet. And a lead sheet is really just the form of the song with chords written above the staff. And any figures that I need to actually play, I'll notate if need be. But all right, so why don't you run the song down, and I'm going to do my quickie notation lead sheet, and you guys can watch it if you want.
So this would actually be something similar to what Ira would get because there's no guitars in it right now. So what you're hearing is just drums, bass, organ, and vocals.
You have the vocals in, yeah?
Yeah, they come in.
Everyone was busy trying to change the world. They left me with a 16-year-old girl
Boy, is this a scribble.
and a postcard from an island in the sea. But they were there and I was here, and she was here with me. She was the driver of a broke down outboard boat. She was the driver though that thing could barely float. And as we crashed into the storm, I knew I would soon be warm, 'cause she was the driver. Put a squirt gun in my pocket, put a Band-Aid on my knee. And Kookaburra sits
I made a
in an
repeat
old
sign, that's why I'm not
gum
writing at the
tree.
moment.
Yeah,
I'm just
she's
making
blind
100%
and
sure
blue,
that it was the
but
right thing to do.
everything's
Because if
okay.
anything's different in this verse, I have to start all over.
But she got a
But so far, so good.
six-string and a voice like a summer day. She was a driver of a 55 Bel Air. She was a driver as the bugs flew through our hair. No belts to keep us driver. She was the driver of a broke down outboard boat. She was the driver, though that thing could barely float. And as we crashed into the storm, I knew I would soon be warm, 'cause she was the driver.
And if you can make it fit on one
Yeah, she
page,
was
all the
the
better. That's 2.
And she was the driver.
That's 3. And I think that's the last time. And then the last chord. So I kind of cheated. I went off the grid.
Okay.
Not bad.
Well, that looks pretty good.
Yeah, I only need to read it. Nobody else needs to.
You can hear all those chords. You know what they are.
Well, yeah, it's a little difficult with this because there's really not a lot of chords playing except when the organ's playing. You know, when it's the verse, it was just the bass and drums. I just happen to know which are minor and which are major because I know the song.
Can I just show this around?
Yeah, sure.
One thing that's kind of an interesting little anomaly is in Nashville. Yeah, in Nashville, they generally use the number system because Nashville is a less structured. A lot of the musicians don't even really read music, and they'll use the number system. So and this is an
Roman
A, right?
numerals, yeah.
So the A chord would be 1, the D chord would be 4, and so on.
Yeah.
And the beauty of that is, in Nashville, you bring in the singer and all the musicians, and if you write down the chord chart in letters, and they're singing, all of a sudden the singer says, "Oh, I want to take it up a half step." You gotta go back and rewrite it. So if you're doing numbers,
You just
all of a sudden the A, which used to be 1, now becomes a B flat. And then if there's a modulation, which there is in this case, you go up one, there's a modulation up to B. You say last chorus, or after the thing, you go one step up, and you don't have to write it out.
But I will say this: I wrote a chart in I wrote a Nashville chart a couple of weeks ago for another band of mine. I brought it to them, and they all said, "You're kidding, right?"
That's funny because that's a real big difference between New York and Nashville.
Yeah.
So, should we do some overdubbing?
Yeah, yeah.
What are you going to do first?
Let's try the acoustics. I'll cheat and tell you guys a little bit. I'm going to bring the guitar out here for a second.
So what I'd like to understand, because I'm thinking in terms of classical music, is it's usually orchestrated in classical music where each person, each instrument has their part. They know what they're doing in
Yeah.
advance. It's written down.
Yep.
But is that here, or are you improvising around what?
It varies.
Okay.
It runs the whole gamut. Sometimes you'll receive a chart with explicit stuff on it. Sometimes there'll be more than one part. But when there's not, or when the person who's hiring you maybe doesn't have a strong idea of how to build the track, you have to sort of take it upon yourself to be the orchestrator. And I was going to show a little bit of that when I got to the electric guitar and the mandolin parts of how I want to build up and apply tension in certain places. But the thing I'm going to do for now is I'm going to do 2 acoustic guitar passes. And the first thing you always want to do before you record anything, as you all know, is make sure you're as in tune as you possibly can be.
Chinese folk song.
Yeah, tuning. Oh, very nice.
I might add the guitar is the hardest thing to tune in the world.
And he's tuning with harmonics.
The violin or cello, easy, great open fifths. Guitar is a crazy instrument
Well,
to tune.
I'm tuning with fifths, but what I do is when I see that everything reads as being in tune, I go through a couple of different chords. of the song I'm going to be playing.
Right.
All right, just to see how in tune they are. And I can hear it's not that in tune, even though the little guy here tells me I am. Go through my octaves. One of these days. That's a little more in tune. So what I'm going to do is, the first track I'm going to do is just straight up without the use of this thing, it's called a capo. It's like having another finger. The second track I do is going to have the capo. As a matter of fact, I might even cheat a little bit and get a real crazy thing going. So let's see. You got to try and figure this out. Nah, never mind. I didn't like the way that panned out. The capo allows you to play difficult keys without having to play difficult fingerings, like if the song was in E flat. That's, you know, you don't get to use any open strings because the only open string in E flat would be the G string. But if you put this on the first fret, you can play an E flat like that with just by fingering a D chord, which then gets into the whole business of transposing the chart. Do you write the chart in the capo key or do you write it in the regular key? But let's leave that for the moment. By the way, this is one of the more important things you all should know. Protect your hearing. Wearing headphones, especially, you know, when you start cranking stuff up because you're playing and you need to be loud to get the feel, you're going to kill your hearing. You really are. Take it from me, because mine's quite compromised at this point. So protect your hearing. All right, sorry, go ahead.
And I was going to ask you, when you were a child and you first took guitar lessons,
Yeah.
did the teacher try to get you to play it right-handed?
I wish he had.
Really?
I wish to God he had. Because then I wouldn't spend most of my waking hours looking for left-handed instruments, because there are so few of them.
Did they have them back
They
then?
have,
Yeah.
yeah, they did, but they are maybe 3 to 4% of the market are left-handed guitars. And to get a guitar company to retool to make a left-handed guitar is like asking, you know, General Motors to retool to make a right-side steering wheel cars. You know, it requires the entire plant to shut down, and you know.
You know, I've always wanted to be a guitar player myself. As a left-handed player, I mean, if you think about what you do, your dominant hand doesn't do much. You know, your dominant hand is doing more of the intricate stuff.
Yeah.
I would almost wonder if it would behoove a left-handed player to play right-handed, just because your dominant hand is doing more of the the fine
there
stuff.
are lots of left-handed people who do
Right.
play the guitar right-handed. B.B. King was, Glenn Campbell was, lots of people. I just happen to.
Right.
Many right-handed people play left guitar.
Well, yeah, that's.
Just the masochists. All right.
Everyone was busy trying to change the world.
One of the most difficult things, and this is a really bad example because Ira does this really well, but playing with a click, can you talk about what the difficulties of playing with a click?
Well, as my friend Wayne Pedswater used to always say, the click is your friend. You have no better friend when you have headphones on and you can't see anybody or anything else than the click, because that is your guide. It's like practicing with a metronome. It's there, it's right. If you're not with it, you're wrong. That's all there is to it.
In my experience, everybody rushes. When I'm overdubbing, I gotta go. I just gotta lay it back. And one of the most charming things about great studio musicians is they always kind of feel like they're just a little behind, and it gives it a very relaxed. Like if you listen to that playing, Ira's playing, he's right on, but he's not in front of it ever.
Yeah, we used to call that the lope.
Yeah, and drummer, studio musicians, they sit around and talk about all this nerdy stuff with the click and stuff. But when I first started recording, 1969, you would never record with a click. That would be considered ridiculous, and it would sound mechanical. You wanted the track to flow up and down. But nowadays, with the way we record and the grid, you can do so many other things if you stay with a click. And the same with film scoring. So.
We would not have been able to do this song without a click.
No, you can't do this kind of overdubbing without click. So you sacrifice maybe some feel. On the disco days, what did they do in the last chorus? Sped up, made it feel more exciting. So, should we do the other guitar?
Yeah, so now this one I'm even going to do a sneaky thing and move the capo in the middle of the song, right where it modulates.
That's the James Taylor trick.
Yes, it is, but he's got the kind of capo you can just slide. I have to take this one off.
Everyone was busy trying to change
Okay, so I'm going to ask Steve to stop, and this is where I move the capo for the modulation, so we can have even more spread between the two guitars, so they're not playing the same chords, they're playing different chords, and it makes it sound bigger and fatter. Okay, so we'll just take it right at the modulation. Okay.
Okay, Ira, you can come on out.
Yep.
A student here was asking us about the microphone placement.
Absolutely.
I'll let you take it away.
No, hey, I'm the least qualified of the three of us to talk about that. But what I will say is that I've always found that you get best results by pointing the mic right at the middle of the vibrating length of the instrument, which would be the 12th fret right here. Sometimes you can get good results at the end of the fingerboard, but if you point the mic right into the sound hole, you're going to get a lot of woofiness.
So I'll elaborate a little more on that. So typically, like Ira said, the sweet spot is between the 12th fret and where the neck meets the body, and I sort of angle it into the hole, so so you get a little bit of the boom.
You're also not getting the rush of air,
Right.
because you're angling it.
Right.
You're not
The
getting,
way to think of it is put your headphones on.
And move
put
it
the
around.
microphone,
Yeah.
wait
Move
till
around till it sounds
Yeah,
good.
Yeah, I've seen you do that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So could you talk, every time you show up at a gig, you have a different guitar. You have a PR, you've got a PRS, you've got a Les Paul, you've got Tellys, you've got Strats, you have the big semi-hollow body Gibsons.
Mm-hmm.
And last night we were at the session, I heard you say, well, maybe this song would be better on a different guitar. So can you explain how you choose guitars and what the different ones do?
A lot of it's guesswork, but you have to just trust you listen to the song. I mean, I brought 4 guitars to the Bacon Brothers session the last couple of days because I kind of knew what songs we would be doing, and I kind of knew what guitars would be that I owned would be best for them. Like this song, I cut on this guitar. This is a Fender Telecaster, which I'm only using. These are pickups for you non-guitar players. These are basically the microphones of a guitar, but they're not, actual microphones. They're ceramic, and they're like electromagnets. And I'm only using this one. This is the twangy Telecaster sound that you hear on more country music than anything else, but certainly rock and roll, and it's just a great sound, which you'll hear in a minute when we do this next thing. Just, I don't know, certain guitars, certain songs call for, I don't know, man, I don't seem to have a great answer for this, do I?
You don't. I'm kind of surprised.
I think experience is the great answer.
Yeah,
I have a question in that vein. How often, when you're called for a session, are you specified what to bring or asked what you have? Like, hey, you have a telly? Can you bring a telly or
Sure.
something like that?
A lot of the time. And on Broadway shows, they have gotten, over the years, way more specific about what
Really?
you're to bring. I'll go to a Broadway show and it'll say Gretsch.
Wow,
And
really?
you'll have to have a Gretsch guitar.
Wow.
It'll say Strat, it'll say Telly, and you're expected to have those there.
Well, now, just out of curiosity, what would be, what would be the? Has anyone scoffed at a telly-like guitar? It doesn't have the Fender on the headstock.
Nah, as long as it gets the job done and
Okay.
it sounds good. I do want to say 3 quick things about the acoustic things that I just did. One is I forgot to mention one bad habit that a lot of people get into, and I was into it myself for a long time until I found myself on a movie date with a bunch of string players, horn players. I was tapping my foot. And in a room full of live microphones, that's a no-go.
Yeah,
That's
Steve
a
always
real
tells me about
no-go.
that, yeah.
I yell at him
And
a
then
lot
I
about
learned to
that.
tap my foot by just tapping my heel, not hitting the floor. But because you have to keep time somehow, you have to feel the clock, And if you're still like a robot, it's kind of hard to swing with the music. So you got to do
You never
something.
know
So I find
how
myself.
bodily sounds you make until you're a recording artist.
Huh?
I find that I breathe like Darth Vader when I'm concentrating. I've been asked to hold my breath during the take.
So the other 2 things I wanted to mention real quickly that I thought of while I was playing this was the last chord of that song. I happen to know is 3 measures long. But I didn't notate that in the chart. I should have. Da da da, 2, 3, 4. No, is it 2 or 3 measures? I think it was 3 measures, and then off on the 4th. But all the parts I played that play the last chord, you have to hold them that long. You want it to be uniform. Even though the engineers who mix the song are probably going to do one of those on the last chord. They're not going to let it ring all the way to the end. They want to do a fade of some kind. And the other thing, a little trap that you can fall into is when you're playing an acoustic guitar that you're going to double, or any part that you're going to double, if you do little ornaments on chords, like all that kind of stuff, make a mental note that when you do the double, that's going to be in that place, and you got to do it again, because it's going to be kind of a mess if you don't.
I'd like to add a little bit to that. I've had the pleasure of tracking some of the best musicians on the planet, and
Thank you.
I will say, I will say that there definitely is a technique for studio, and that just you could be the greatest stage guy in the world and not be able to double yourself. And that's I've seen guys who are really good who just couldn't double a simple part because they couldn't remember it through, and they're just not used to doing that.
That's hard with vocalists, too.
Yeah. Every nuance of your playing, because I'm sure whether you're conscious of it or not, there's tons of nuance, and even just the simple part is just strumming.
Yeah.
Your pattern that you're using, when a drum fill comes, if you do a little something different, that has to be doubled when you do a double, it's got to be exactly. Otherwise, it sounds really bad. Because usually, as an engineer, I'm going to pan one to the left and I'm going to pan one to the right. And if he's strumming differently, it's going to sound like dun, 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 dun. It's going to sound completely off and weird.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, while we're jumping in, you were asking about the click situation. And the last note, you got to be really careful, because if the click's coming out of the headphone, you'll hear
it
when the
on
note
the-
starts to fade.
Yeah.
And one of the things you can do is just have the engineer cut the click off on the very last note. But you got to be, anytime you're doing an acoustic instrument, you got to be really careful to click.
Because if the
that'll
headphones are
ruin-
up loud,
Yeah.
that's going to come out on the song.
You might not notice it while you're doing it, but then you're
Yeah.
going to mix, and you're in. Well, actually, they have a thing now which can remove it.
even that's
Yeah, exactly. Anyway. Do you have something?
Well, just to follow up on that, once you're playing with drums, on these takes, is the click actually helping you keep better time? It is.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. For a lot of reasons, the drums stop from time to time for a bar, and you want to hear the rest of the bar go by. You don't want to hear silence. You want to know that you're going to, because the drummer was listening to the click. So, and yeah, you can listen to the drums. And if there is no click, like there is on stage, usually no click, yes, you are going to be getting your time from the drummer, but the click is your friend. I hone in on it like a homing pigeon.
It's more of a subconscious thing, I think.
Yeah.
Just knowing it's there, it's a comfort of knowing it's there.
Yeah.
Should we do some electrics?
Yeah, yeah, and we'll save the mandolin for the end.
All right, we didn't do that.
There's a reason I want to
Okay.
build the mandolin off of something that I
Great.
have an idea for on here. So what I'm going to do is we're recording without an amplifier, the electric guitar. We're recording what's called direct injection, they used to call it. That's what DI stands for. So we just go into that little green box there. And I've got a whole big pedal board here, which has a lot of amplifier simulators and speaker cabinet simulators in it that I've already programmed. As a matter of fact, you can see the patch I wrote is actually called Driver for when we do this song live. So I've already got all my stuff, the tempos, and you can hear I've got a little bit of delay. That's to the whole note. Now, you said this was 115 BPMs, right?
Correct.
Because I've got this at 116, so I'm going to change that so that it's at 115. Like
It's
that.
another issue with click. If you're using a click, you got to get the tempo right. 'Cause what if you get finished and you decide, it's too fast? So you're kind of makes you kind of lock in.
But I also wanted to say that, so I've got a couple of effects going now. Besides that amplifier simulator, I've got a compressor, I've got the delay that you can hear, and I've also got something called tremolo, which is this, the thing where the volume goes like this if you were to see that on a waveform.
And you just programmed that right there with your foot, right?
Nope, I didn't. It was on. I just took it off for a second.
I see.
That's without it. You're just hearing the delay, and I've got some reverb. I can take the reverb off, or doesn't matter. And usually recording engineers don't want reverb, because usually recording engineers have way better reverb units than you do. Plus, you may give them too much, and they can't take it away
off.
when they go to mix, and all of a sudden they're stuck with a guitar that's got too much reverb on, or any instrument that's got too much reverb on it. So it's questionable these days whether you'll even give them the delay, because that takes away their control of that element as well. But I'm going to say, sorry, Steve.
Typically, I would say that I would ask them to take away anything that wasn't instrumental. So if something,
So to speak.
If something was, if something is integral to how you play.
Yeah.
So like if you were using the delay as your part, I would say leave it in. But if not, I would say do it afterwards, because then obviously there's no control.
Right, like a U2 record.
Right.
If you take the guy's delay away, all you're hearing is this.
Yes. Yeah. How are they going to play with that? Right.
Have you ever recorded I know you could do it in the headphones as well.
Yeah.
Would it be the same for you, or like the same feel if you did it had the engineer put the reverb or delay on, not recording it in, but
Sometimes it's better that way. I mean, if you're monitoring it and it's all about how it feels.
right, yeah.
No, sometimes that's great, because like I say, most of what they have in the studio is better than what you have in your little outboard gear, although this thing's pretty good. No, I love that, because they get those delays that just ping and pong all over the place, and it feels terrific when you play to it. What I did want to say was about the tremolo, or any modulation bass effect like phasing, flanging, even filter sweeping. Tremolo has been around way longer than digital recording, way longer than recording to a grid. It's been on part of guitar amplifiers since the 50s, maybe early 60s. And so, as a result, everybody is used to, well, everybody of my age anyhow, is used to hearing all these songs that have been recorded over the years where the tremolo, or time-based effect, was not in sync with the track. I could very easily make this tremolo be a 16th note, but it's not always necessarily better sounding to do that. I've kind of got this kind of random. Let me put it back on. It's almost a 16th note, but play the track a little bit. It's a little faster than a 16th note. I just did that totally to taste, as they say with cooking. All right, let's do this. So I'll play the part that I normally play on this song, which I worked out with the bass player. There's a little thing we do on the chorus where I play this little low thing. And the bass player kind of plays it with me. He's already on there doing that. I might want to be a little softer. I don't know how loud you've got the speakers.
Baritone guitar, tenor guitar, we just use it.
Nope, just use this one. I'm way at the bottom of my range, though.
I have it labeled for
from your tracks that you sent me is baritone guitar, so I don't know if it was anything used, but
Oh, maybe I did.
Baritone, what is baritone? It's like a fifth lower?
It's either a fourth or a fifth lower, or an octave. When I bought that particular baritone guitar, it was an octave lower, but I put lighter strings on it. Now I use it a fifth down.
It's a great sound.
Yeah.
Just very cool sound.
All right, so 2 bars of drums, 2, 2, 3, and then you're in. Yeah, me a little lower.
Everyone was busy trying to change the world. They left me with a 16-year-old girl and a postcard from an island in the sea. They were there and I was here. She was here with me. She was the driver of a broke down outboard boat. She was the driver of that thing could barely float. And as we crashed into the storm, I knew I would soon be warm, 'cause she was the driver. Put a squirt gun in my pocket, put a band-aid on my knee. A kookaburra sits in an old gum tree. Yeah, she's blind and blue, but everything's okay. She got a 6-string and a voice like a summer day. She was a driver of a 55 Bentley. She was a driver as the bugs flew through our head. No bells to keep us alive, but I knew that I would arrive, 'cause she was the driver. She was the driver of a broke down outboard boat. She was the driver of that thing could barely float. And as we crashed into the storm, I knew I would soon be warm, 'cause she was the driver. Yeah, she was the driver. And she was the driver.
2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, boom. Right? Yeah, it's 3 bars long. I don't know if you had any questions about that, but one of the things that I try and do, you listen to the singers more than anything, just about, besides the time, of course. If you're not locked in with the time, you're nowhere. But if you're also stepping on the singers, you're also nowhere, and you're not going to get asked back too many times if you step on the singers. So Kevin starts most of the lines of his verse a couple of beats after the chord starts. So I feel I have the time to roll the chord a little bit beyond the downbeat before he sings, so I kind of gives him a little something to spring off of. But I knew that from, if I had just walked in here and had never heard the song before, I would have had to make that assumption or surmisal, pretty quickly. But I already knew that.
Counterpoint, 13th century counterpoint.
Yeah.
Exactly what you're talking about. You guys got to take counterpoint. It's the key to everything. All right, I'll shut up now.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you did say that you had the advantage or disadvantage of actually knowing the song.
Right. Right.
So by judging by just what I'm saying, it seems to know that you know the parts really, really well. So let's say you have another session and you don't know the music at all.
At all.
Do you actually play, like, do you have an idea of what parts to play, like how you're doing just like little ornaments?
You have to make it up as you go along. If
Yeah.
nobody's telling you what to play,
Yeah.
and if you have a producer, like I've had thousands of times over the years, who just sat you down and say, okay, play something. You have to listen to the song. You have to take in as much as you possibly can with each listening. Write down little ideas you may have. Listen for where the holes are, where there's no synth stabs, or, just opportunities for you to make a statement, opportunities for you to not make a statement.
Because I did notice that, I also, all right, so when I do have free time, I tend to do my own digging on a whole bunch of things.
Mm-hmm.
So I do keep in, I have this session guy that he posts a lot of YouTube videos. I'm not sure if Tim Pierce.
Yeah,
if
sure.
you're,
From LA.
Yeah, so he has a whole bunch of videos out. So he has this thing where he shows how his approach to just doing what he does.
Yeah.
And the playing's super solid.
Yeah, he's
that's
great.
what I've noticed with all sessions. It's super solid, and you almost know what to do, or maybe I'm not sure. This is just my guess.
Yeah.
But you kind of know what to do. You have this way of analyzing the song that not everyone would. And you know almost what to do before you do it, and if it's wrong, you kind of change it up, do it again, and then
If it's wrong, but also wrong is in the eye of the beholder,
yes,
too.
yes. Probably that's just the wrong word.
No,
I
that's
kinda-
okay.
Yeah,
That's
it's
okay.
like-
But,
Yeah.
it is, because I've been, how many times have I played something that I thought was just killing, and the producer would say, not so much.
yes, yes.
Or as we used to say in the 80s, save it for your album.
Yeah.
So
The other thing you might
you've got to
notice
be
is
flexible.
The keyboard player is in this game too.
Yeah.
It's the vocal is the most important thing.
Yeah.
And then the contrapuntal lines, Ira's giving the keyboard player some air too. So there's actually 3 different parts that are going on at all times.
Sure, and of course, since the keys are already on there, I have no choice but to give them air, because if I
Yes,
don't,
of course.
I'm wrong.
Of course. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that this will be an average, but when you're called in on a session, first of all, what percentage of sessions do you do these days where, it's the time-honored, bunch of guys in a room all mic'd up and eye contact versus, and then what
There have been a few more lately, thankfully, because that's a good thing, making music together, but not so much anymore.
Well, so on that vein, what is the typical amount of a track that's given to you when you go into a session? I mean, are you used to coming into stuff? I mean, there's just drums and bass.
Well, let's take yesterday with the Bacon Brothers, for example. We did 4 songs, one of which we had never really heard before. Another of which we had heard maybe once or twice, that one called Tom Petty T-shirt. We didn't know the song, and there was a demo recording of it that Kevin had done, with some programmed drums. I think you had played some bass on it. And the rest we just kind of worked out there between us, the brothers, the producer. There
was another song yesterday we did where I pre-recorded the guitar player. Steve and I did it. We did it a couple of weeks ago, and I did that because it's a really, really hard guitar part. And I wanted to be kind of relaxing and listen to what these guys were doing and not just focusing on whether I was executing it properly. So in that case, the whole track was built up around just my guitar.
So I want to say, Ira, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Mike, I think weirdly enough, I'm a guitar player, and I teach some of these gentlemen in this room. And actually, I just wanted to mention that there is an artist that I think there's one track that you did for somebody that I'm on the track too.
Oh, cool.
From like 20 years ago. Do you remember her name? Lisa Hogan, singer-songwriter?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So there's a song.
I see her on Facebook.
Right. What's the song? I went the other way. I could have gone the other way. Do you remember that song?
No, song title I don't remember, but I remember Lisa, blonde.
So the reason I'm mentioning it is because I've done a little bit of this kind of work, but not a lot. And I'm just curious as to how much.
Tell me your name again, please.
Robert Winbiel. People know me here as Robert, and sometimes it's Bob outside.
Okay.
Yeah, but that I find that my background in being stylistically very diverse. Like I cut my teeth with a folk guitar, age 10. Learned how to play Yellow Submarine, off to the races with rock and roll, blues, eventually jazz.
Yeah.
And then circling back through all those, and I took classical lessons too.
Yeah.
But being in the studio and sort of being able to, since you're creating your parts, being able to fast, right?
Fast.
You know, we got to get out of here, guys.
Yeah.
We got 2 more tunes to do. Blah blah blah. So I need, so those kind of. Can you talk a little bit about that, like references people make to you, like, hey, Stevie Ray Vaughan, or
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And it's helpful / not helpful. The only way that it would be not helpful is if it puts you in a box that you kind of can't get out of if somebody asks you to be stylistically like somebody else. But more often than not, it's a good way to point you in a direction that you may not have known to go in. If somebody says Stevie Ray Vaughan or Brian May or Eric Clapton or George Harrison or what have you. Who have you? Who have you?
Oh yeah, it would be cool.
You just don't want to get to the point where you go from session to session playing the same thing because of that, because of...
And you'll be that guy.
Yeah, you don't want to be that guy. And that's not always easy.
Yeah.
It's not always easy, year in and year out, being able to come to each session with a fresh slate, with a blank slate, a new slate. Thank you. A clean slate.
Especially in the 80s when you were, how many sessions were you doing at that?
I once did 7 in one day, and I was done at 5:30.
The jingle business was great because it was 10 to 5, 10 to 6.
And I was on my bicycle the whole day, just riding from one to the next with an electric guitar on my back, an acoustic guitar on this shoulder, and the pedal board on the rack over the rear wheel. All over Manhattan.
So should we, are you going to do a lead? Or
I
what do you
want to do 2 other parts. One is in that funny Johnny Nash, I Can See Clearly Now part, just before the modulation at the end of the instrumental. I remember doing these 2 parts at home for this song. This is a little, speaking of counterpoint, these are just little contrapuntal lines that go around the vocals, where we have those big stacked vocals. What was the second part right there? Did I play it in harmony or octaves? Well, we'll try both. We'll see what sounds better.
Do you want to go, you want to do the bridge?
Yeah, what we're calling the bridge, yeah.
Okay, I'll give you 2 bars prior to that.
Okay. Now, actually, I'm going to take the tremolo off so it differentiates itself from the sound of the other parts. Okay. So it's just a
Love
little counter
I
melody.
never noticed that part before.
Yeah.
We should have turned it up.
Now, what did I play a harmony or did I play it in
Straight
octaves?
imitative counterpoint. I mean,
Yeah.
right out of the Baroque era.
I'll try it an octave down. I think it's going to sound a little logy down there, but let me try
It's
it.
logy.
Too low.
To like,
Like two bassoons playing in thirds.
She was the driver.
I think it's cool. It almost sounds like a 12-string. It's the part that's actually in tune.
So now let's go to the end where they're repeating "She was a driver," which is just maybe 8 bars beyond where you are right now. And there was another thing that I added. What effect did I put on that?
Oh, right. That's a cool part.
Maybe that's good by itself. It's just the compression, the delay. The other thing I did was switch pickups.
Yeah.
To go to the neck pickup to give it a little different sound, because it's. I could do that, but I just like this other sound. We've been hearing that through the whole song anyhow, the sound of the other pickups. So this gives a little variety. Okay.
Though that thing could barely float, and as we crashed into the storm, I knew I would soon be warm, 'cause she was the driver.
All I'm doing with my hand right now is just in case there's an open string that wants to ring during that last chord, I'm not going to let it. I am always making sure that, especially when you start playing with distortion, the first thing that happens when you start playing with distortion is the open strings say, "Oh, me. I want to hear, you want to hear me? You want to hear me right now, right?" No, I don't. Especially on a B chord, I don't want to hear a low E, thanks very much.
Another thing that's neat about what you just played is it's the end of the song, and you kind of want to, pop songs you like to ramp, and this is kind of a pedal tone that's going through 3 different changes, not
Yeah.
necessarily in the triad, and it gives
Yeah.
a very modern, big, kind of emotional sound, because there's a little bit of dissonance in it. So
There is
it's
dissonance, yeah,
very-
because I'm just staying on the 1s and the 5s of the 1 chord, even though we're cycling through the whole progression. But also, I'm in a higher register than I've been through the whole song, so that gives it another little jump up. We could double that or not. Maybe let's double it since were we on the same track as we were on the Birds tracks? Okay, so let's use the other one of the Birds tracks.
So I'll give you 2 bars before that starts.
Sure.
I would soon be warm, 'cause she was the driver. She was the driver. She was the driver.
And I think both me and the organ are not playing a major third on the last chord. I'm just playing roots and fifths. I think the organ was too,
Okay, I see.
which is kind of a cool, because the acoustic guitars are banging away with major thirds in them.
It's also, in terms of songwriting, as soon as you're coming back to the title for the last time, I call that the shiver zone.
The shiver zone. I don't know
And
that.
That help. Well, generally, if you write a bridge, and
Oh, yeah,
it's the end of the bridge coming
he's not
back
playing
to
a
the
third.
chorus again, that's where you need to make everybody shiver, and this helps because it's just a new element, and it's just psychologically you feel like this has been a journey with the song that's now coming to an end, and I'm
Also,
going to
the
miss.
chorus repeats, and if it just repeats and the vocals don't change and the
Right.
production doesn't change,
which they don't,
what
right.
do you- what's the point? You need
Right.
to do something different.
So the one other thing that I wanted to do on the electric was, as I was running this morning and evading school buses that were heading directly at me, I was playing the song in my head. Yeah, I know, right? There's so much construction in my town that everybody's like. I wanted to try this backwards thing, going into the instrumental. This is just another device to sort of ramp things up, and this is a device that you've heard a million times: synths, pianos, guitars, vocals. You record it forwards, then you reverse it, you play it backwards, and the fact that it gets, the fact that when you record a guitar, it gets softer as the chord rings out. But if you were to turn that around, it gets louder as the chord rings out, and that's kind of a nice thing to do. So, maybe if I take the compression off of it, it'll fade away quicker, which is what you want. Okay, so let's go to the end of chorus 2, just before the instrumental. And I'll play this 2 bars before the
So
instrumental.
I'll give you 4 bars. Before
Sure, great. This is when you want the click, by the way. You want to be right on the grid for this.
No belts to keep us alive.
Right here.
But I knew that I would arrive, 'cause she was the driver.
Okay, so that wasn't much in and of itself. But what we're going to do is
So
take.
Steve does the reverse?
Mm-hmm.
You don't, yeah.
Steve's going to do the reverse. The joys of computer recording.
So that's a plug-in, the reversing?
Yeah, I think pretty much every recording program has some sort of facility to let you do that. Yeah, and there you go. Anyhow, so let's hear that in the track. Go a little bit back. So go back a little bit, maybe a couple more bars, maybe sync that in just a little bit.
Of a 55 Billy, she was the driver. As the bugs flew through our head, no belts to keep us alive. But I knew that I would arrive, 'cause she was the driver.
So that's the kind of thing you may say afterwards, I didn't love it, because tell you the truth, I didn't love it that much. but it's okay.
It's nice because as you hit the string, there's a little bit of noise, and then that noise becomes
The ending.
Kinda,
Yep.
kind of neat.
So, but it's another device that's useful. Speaking of solos,
yeah.
let's try a solo.
Yeah, okay.
Let's try a solo.
So in this case, the organ player played the solo.
Yeah, so I have never played a solo on this song, I don't believe. So I'm just going to go
Do you
looking.
like playing solos in the studio?
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of prefer it on stage. But yeah.
No belts to keep us alive. But I knew that I would arrive, 'cause she was the driver.
Why did you decide to go to Mando afterwards?
Because of the parts I wanted to put down first on this, I want to sort of build up on them at the end of the song, and I wanted them down on tape, for lack of a better term, before doing the Mando part.
Great.
Okay, so let's see if I know what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's try a little bit. I'm not going to play this constantly through the song. I think this is more like touches here and tastes here and there.
Ira, am I starting it from the top?
Let's start from the top, yeah.
Everyone was busy trying to change the world. They left me with a 16-year-old girl and a postcard from an island in the sea. But they were there and I was here. She was here with me. She was the driver of a broke down outboard boat. She was the driver of that thing could barely float. And as we crashed into the storm, I knew I would soon be warm, 'cause she was the driver. Put a squirt gun in my pocket, put a band-aid on my knee, and Kookaburra sits in an old gum tree. Yeah, she's blind and blue, but everything's okay. She got a six-string and a voice like a summer day. She was a driver of a 55 Bel-Air. She was a driver as the bugs flew through our head. No belts to keep us alive, but I knew that I would arrive, 'cause she was the driver. She was the driver of a broke down outboard boat. She was the driver, though that thing could barely float. And as we crashed into the storm, I knew I would soon be warm, 'cause she was the driver. She was the driver. She was the driver.
Yes.
All right,
Gorgeous.
let me come in. So what I wanted to do is that thing that I did on the end with the electric, I wanted to start introducing that little theme that earlier on
yeah.
with the mandolins. So that's what I did starting at the end of the first chorus and then throughout the instrumental.
Everyone was busy trying to change the world. They left me with a 16-year-old girl and a postcard from an island in the sea. But they were there and I was here. She was here with me. She was the driver of a broke down gun in my pocket, put a band-aid on my knee. A kookaburra sits in an old gum tree. Yeah, she's blonde and blue, but everything's okay. She got a six-string and a voice like a summer day. She was a driver of a 55 Bel Air. She was a driver as the bugs flew through our hair. No belts to keep us alive, but I knew that I would arrive, 'cause she was the driver. She was the driver of a broke-down outboard boat. She was the driver, though that thing could barely float. And as we crashed into the storm, I knew I would soon be warm, 'cause she was the driver. Yeah, she was the driver. And she was the driver.
You've been watching Guitar Stars with Ira Siegel. I'm Michael Bacon from Lehman College.